Hello, 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 folks. Welcome to this episode of FEAST Foreplay, the conversations telling you about what's to come at this incredible festival of embodiment and sexual transformation. If you haven't already listened in with us, I'm Jordan Hackett. I'm one of the co-directors of this incredible community space, and I'm feeling super excited to be chatting with Patrick today. Patrick has been an active and passionately quirky, incredibly creative individual in this community for some years now, and he's going to be bringing some excellent workshops to this space. So I'm really excited for this conversation with you today, Patrick. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Jordan. I can't say I'm equally excited because I've got no measure for exactly how excited you are, but I feel that we're probably quite closely equally excited about
I
this.
love it. I love it. So I want to dive in with you, as we have with every other person in this space, by first asking, what was your first experience in a group erotic learning space? And what did that lead to in your life in the months, the years, and the years that followed?
It's a good question because to really, really dive deep into that would have to like unpack what is erotic.
Yes.
Just from not overthinking it, my first sort of studying and learning, and so we were studying counselling. I was studying to be a youth line telephone counsellor. I was like 16 years old, and they'd bent the rules or something to let this young fella in because he was really keen or something. And we were like studying counselling. I'm thinking, cool, this is counselling. We're studying counselling, and it's about talking. And then they say, right, everybody lay down, and we're going to do massages now. And so there was no intention that it was meant to be an erotic sort of learning space per se,
Mm-hmm.
but it was the first time that I had been touched, probably by a non-family member or a close friend, in a learning environment, and I went, ooh, and just felt that little shiver, that little tingle of, well, let's say, delight or deliciousness.
Mm.
So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's my answer.
Yeah, beautiful. I love it. What I've found from asking this question of all of these different people is like, I don't know what the answer is that's going to come back. Like I've just had this unconscious perception to be like, oh yeah, it's similar to mine. It's like, no, they've been so wildly different. And so
Mhm.
I love the uniqueness of each one. And what I'm curious about is, what was that a catalyst for? Did that momentary piece of awareness or experience lead to something? And if maybe not that moment, was there another more significant one where your sexuality or your erotic nature unlocked more that really led to something significant in your life?
Mm, it's a great question. It's a really sort of expansive sort of question. What I think is it turned on like a little switch, a little light bulb came on that at some level said to me, and it was counter to my social upbringing,
Mm,
very small town,
mm,
very deep south of very reserved Catholic New Zealand, sheep farming. I mean, just if you think of the movies, that's it. You know,
yeah,
Hunt for the Builder People. Yep, that's me growing up.
yeah.
And there was just such an expectation that this should be under these parameters and under this. It must be two people, and it must be. There's so many things about how it must look to be
Mm,
biblically correct
mm,
that I was seriously attached to.
mm,
And that light bulb coming on was the sort of a beginning of an awakening of, oh, actually, there are other ways. I mean, still was wrecked with guilt and shame and, you know, things for many, many years, but it was just the beginning of the awakening that there could be other ways. There could
mm,
be, ways of showing up for friends or other people with
mm,
touch
mm,
and presence.
mm,
There's so many delicious, great things that we can show
mm,
up with,
mm.
um, as opposed to what I was really originally signing up for, which was quite a distance. I'll help you, but only on the telephone.
Totally.
And I'm not really. It's just only so
Yeah,
much I can. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I love the tender little light bulb that you're speaking to, but the bigger value set that I feel like it ignites people's awareness of, which is so key to sexological bodywork and the work that we do, which is this concept that sex doesn't only happen in the genitals, that eros and erotic connection doesn't only happen with the genitals and doesn't have to happen locked away in the privacy of, you know, your room under the cover of darkness with no lights on, or only with your partner, you know. And it's a concept that can scare people because there's this polarity, I think, in the world of so much unboundariedness and just kind of running over people's edges, but then also so much fear. And so we're kind of in this like overexpression and underexpression polarity. And I think so much of what this work does is, you know, it colors in all of the gray area. It's like, look at everything that can happen here. And when we're empowered, when we're clear in what feels appropriate for us, what feels appropriate for this connection right now, this space, there's actually so much more excitement and living and connection that can occur, you know, when we are in touch with those.
Yeah, and you know that gray space, the in between zone. I think we can actually get really expanded within that. And I like to think about it as horizontal, you know, getting horizontal,
Yeah.
or you know, really, you know, you see sort of images of people dropping a balloon in slow motion. There's a point where it's a balloon, and there's a point where it's and
Yes.
that's the juice. That's the bit that I super love that.
Totally. Yeah. And I think it's so common in the world to kind of look at this going upwards as intensifying or increasing and stuff. And I think a lot, you know, that imagery of really spreading out, like expanding sideways, being able to enjoy more within this layer of intensity or this layer of sensation and recognize how much more is available. It's a concept that's quite foreign to people, but as soon as they get a taste for it, it's like just almost unlimited possibility, the recognition of that unfolds. So yeah,
absolutely. I think we know enough about neuroscience now too that we can actually intentionally tap into certain things and make practices around them.
Yeah,
and you know, self-regulate or you know, explore things.
I feel like everything we're saying dovetails so perfectly into my next question for you, which is, what do you think makes doing erotic development work so important and valuable?
Oh, that's such a good question. Um, Why is it so important? It's important because it's that birthright to be able to access pleasure or experience pleasure. And if we're really inclusive about that, that includes everybody, and regardless of anything. And it looks so many different ways for so many different people. I guess that's something that excites me, is the nuance of we're all different. But why it's exciting or important is I think that we have been kind of molded by society and, you know, family and so many different aspects that have kind of built us and sort of given us often quite a rigid way of being or approaching. And so generally speaking, I find that most people don't know exactly what they want, and they're certainly not quite sure how to ask for it. And then when we do work out how to ask for it, we're not quite sure how to say, oh, actually, that's enough now, thank you. And we're also certainly not sure how to take it when someone says no. And, you know, no can be a complete sentence, but no can also be quite nuanced, and it can also be an invitation for more things. So,
yeah, I love that. I love that what you've highlighted there is, you know, in this, you know, different aspects of communication, self-awareness, consent work that's often, you know, directly linked to our erotic relationship or our sexual relationship with a partner or a lover or ourselves even. There's actually like universal relational skills that are being taught and practiced at a level of like intimacy and what can feel like high stakes at times. And it's like, if we can practice it there, all of a sudden, you know, our ability to know our desires, our ability to speak our desires, our ability to know and own our boundaries, to receive no's, like, if we actually stop and think for a second, that's a skill we need in so many areas of life, in the workplace, in the supermarket, in our day-to-day with our children. You know, like, we need to be able to communicate and relate in those mature, embodied, confident ways. And I feel like the other thing that touched me about what you said is, you know, like, you were speaking about the uniqueness of people. And I feel like for me, eros, erotic nature, is one of the really unique threads of our existence, or it's, you know, it's like, it's the thing that's the spark that seems quite different in every person. There's a lot of similarities we share, but that's one of the strokes of the brush where each person has got this very unique makeup, and touching into that place somehow deepens our knowing of ourselves and our willingness to accept our own authenticity and, unique flavor in this life.
I think there's actually something else that's really important here.
Mm.
It's a word you dropped in that. You said practice. And, the fact is that we can go to cooking classes, we can practice cooking, and we can go to learning Spanish classes, we can practice Spanish. But the truth is, most of us are practicing intimate skills when the rubber's hitting the road. It's too late. We're on top of someone or underneath somebody, and we're going, oh, now hang on a minute, I'm practicing my yeses and my nos and things. I mean, why don't we do that with a coach?
Yeah.
When the pressure's off and it doesn't matter, and we can be really clunky and can be difficult, but until we practice using those words or going through those things, it's just like, it's all theory.
Totally. And I love, like one of the massive messages I received from DJ Numa, the people that train both of us, is like, why do we think we have to practice with people we're attracted to? Like, remove the pressure. And people are like, why would I come to FEAST? There's a lot of fear. People are like, why would I come and work on my sexuality with strangers? Like, that's so weird. That's so scary. And it's like, why wouldn't you? Like, why are you practicing that with the person that you are choosing to live with for the rest of your life, or with the person you're going on the first date with? And it's like this tender new connection, and you're, freaking out about getting it wrong. It's like, practice it with someone that you might not need to speak to again, or that doesn't have any agenda to sleep with you tonight and doesn't care if you blunder it or not. It's like, give yourself the breathing space to mess it up, to do it poorly, and, to get better at it for the places where it really matters. So yeah,
and
you bang
in community, in a safe space.
Yeah.
It's like everything is
supportive.
Now, specifically for this.
Totally.
Water too.
Absolutely. I love it. All right. My next question for you is quite general as well. So just let, whatever comes specifically out in this moment is totally welcome. What are you most passionate about in life in general, or in your work, and how do you weave that into your work? And maybe more specifically, what kind of challenges and growth opportunities are you most passionate about supporting people with, supporting your clients with?
Okay. That is a very broad question. And I feel like there's so many things I could sort of pour into that space. Look, people are my favorite animals. So I just absolutely, when people go, oh, I love dogs, or oh, I love cats, I freaking love people. And I particularly love couples, because it's just a much more sort of a challenging sort of dynamic. And yet you've got both people that you can sort of, my neurospicey brain just went a little bit offline, but it's coming back online again. The things I'm passionate about, I think, are realizing that I'm quite a neurospicey person. I'm quite excited about working with neurospicey people. Wow. Hang on, something just happened to my... That's right. I'm back again. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I put do not disturb.
No, you're right.
I didn't. Let's just focus. Oh. All right, that won't happen again. So I was talking about neurospiciness. I like when we mesh together as neurospicy people. I think we can kind of butt heads by trying to be some sort of normal with somebody that's sort of trying to adapt things to sort of fit us. So I'm really passionate about that sort of fit of neurospicy people. I'm a pleasure head, so I'm really passionate about pleasure and accessing pleasure, both personally or for anybody I work with. I'm really passionate about teaching online. I think it's a super great way of meeting up, building community, and working really safely, like the comfort of your own home. What could be better? You don't even have to get in your car and go anywhere. So I'm passionate about that. I'm passionate about growth at the moment. I'm passionate about getting older and stronger and wiser and more fit and more flexible. as
Mm.
opposed to the program that's sort of expected of getting older and grumpier and crankier and less. I mean, as you said, it's going to happen at some point, but
Yeah.
I'm
Maybe
like,
not.
yeah, it doesn't need. Well, actually, it doesn't need to happen, right?
Mm.
To make decisions. So
I
I'm
love
passionate
the
about all those things.
I love the term neurospicey, and I feel like there might be some people listening that haven't heard that terminology before. I feel like I know what it means, but can you tell us what it means to you for those that may not be familiar with it?
Sure. I think it is a way of, or a term that maybe paints or suggests a different tonality of brain working.
Mm.
Um, so what I mean by that is, the old radio that had volume and tone.
Yeah.
So you can turn the tone up, and so it's very, very sharp and really crisp. And I think that those people are much more likely to be lawyers or bankers, or I
Mm.
mean,
Mm.
sorry, that sounded really judgmental. Maybe not, but I mean more sort of analytical
Mm.
type. Although there are a lot of neurospicy people working in those industries, so
Mm.
I'm talking nonsense
No hard and fast
right
rules.
off the bat. But I'm just trying to paint a picture more so than make a judgment of any group
Nice.
of, you know, career choice. Whereas the neurospicy people, I think, are kind of, their tone thing is turned down. It's a bit more muffled and kind of, maybe not so quick at like adding things or doing certain things that the person with the other way of being might be. But it's just like, it's not, it's just a suggestion of there being a spectrum of being,
Mm.
I guess.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Of the way the workings and mechanisms of the brain.
It's such a
Yeah.
good question. It's actually quite, when you first asked that, I just went, oh, that's going to be easy to answer because I should know. And, I'm not even sure myself. There's a
Mm.
lot of sometimes confusion or
Mm.
overwhelm because of too much noise or
Mm.
I want to say confusion, like looking at faces and it's like, oh, is Jordan displeased right now or is Jordan happy? I
Yeah.
also have a weird thing where I don't necessarily remember faces. So
Mm.
it's quite difficult. I have to see people quite a
Mm.
lot to actually
Mm.
know, oh, that face is Jordan's face.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I feel like the association I've got with the term neurospicy really speaks to like I guess the diversity and the difference of the way a whole bunch of people's brains and mental kind of processes and perceptions work that might seem a bit outside to what we've been given as normal right now. And I think the reason that I'm most interested in asking you that is because I think in my awareness, there's an increasing number of people that are recognizing that their brains work differently or their internal mechanisms work differently to what the prescribed normal expectation would be. And the way that really dovetails for me into this space is I'm curious about your experience of learning in a really embodied way, doing practices, doing training, supporting people where we're learning and understanding things about ourselves really through our bodies. Like we're doing things with our bodies, we're touching our bodies, we're learning things about our bodies. And yes, the brain connection with that. But how has that supported you or how has that interested you as a neurospicy person versus a more theoretical or cognitive approach to learning about sex and relationships?
That's super easy because the idea of putting it through kind of almost like a mechanical mechanism in my head is really clunky and it's a
Yeah.
lot of work. Uh, and at the end of it, I don't really know it. I just,
Mm.
well, if I'm really excited about it, I'll hyperfixate on it and I will study the death out of it. And I'll probably be able to speak with a world's leading expert on that one little bit of that subject for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then I won't know that anymore because I
Yeah.
will have become hyperfixated on something else. And yeah, just got hyperfixated on hyperfixation.
So
And
I'm hearing, I guess, that it feels like it actually like really lands in your system and it's something that you can maintain over a prolonged period of time and has a meaningful impact when you're learning in this more integrated way.
it just makes it for me doable and sustainable
Mm.
and kind of knowable, if that
Mm.
makes any sense,
Mm.
because it's now in me as
Mm.
opposed to kind of some of those things that kind of more cerebral for me are a little bit like, if you've ever had a feather or a feather floating in some water and you try and grab it, and just the action of putting your hands
Yes.
together makes it go away. So having it in my body, having felt it, having practiced it, having done, embodiment practices, somatic, practices, erotic embodiment practices around it, it's like, that old toothpaste ad where they used to dip the chalk into the dye, and the dye got into the chalk, and they broke, and look, it really does get in. And so I think it's like that, because it really soaks in.
Beautiful. Awesome. I'd love to hear from you in this moment, Patrick, a little bit more detail about your work, not in great length, but just, so people know, like, what's your experience? What's the training background you have? How do you work with people right now? You mentioned online, you mentioned couples work, but, tell us, like, is it sessions? Is it online programs? What kind of offerings do you have? And then I'd love to ask you about your workshops at FEAST, but start with you and your work for a moment.
Cool, thanks. Well, as I said, I started with telephone counselling when I was like 16 years old. And although I didn't really stay in counselling for a very, very long time, and I could have studied to a high level there, it kind of set me up for being curious about ways of getting involved in conflict. When people are really annoyed and really, just being quiet and listening and repeating back. And so it was a good little toolkit that I had. But then I learned to become a photographer. And had some life-changing experiences, and for one reason or another couldn't do that anymore. And I was quite aware of one of my school friends, a person I really admire, and had studied sexological bodywork and introduction to embodied counselling and things through the Institute of Somatic Sexology here in Australia. And I really admired them and their willingness to do something. They came from the same town and home sort of style and religion and background as I did, and they're out sort of helping people with sexuality. That is so cool. I just really want to be in that. That just sounds exciting to me. And so we sat down and had quite a bit of talking, and the first thing they said is, you need to go and start studying orgasmic yoga, or we're now calling it erotic embodiment.
Yeah.
And just to sort of start practicing and getting curious. And from there, you should probably go and do some festivals and some conscious sexuality stuff. And like, because she was like, it was kind of like cross between, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is, or, exposure therapy, which is like, pushing you. This is going to scare the heck out of you. So just go to this little festival, people dancing, and with their shoes off, and they'll be dressed in like kind of like t-shirt material, but it'll be cut into different sort of. It's not going to look like t-shirts. It's going to be like a lot of braided hair and herbal cigarettes and and so that was kind of my start. And with their guidance, I made my way through my first season of festivals and studying the introduction to embodied counselling with Dij at the Institute, which I guess was probably something like 2018 or something. And we were the last intake that did that with a in-person intensive.
Yeah,
had a really, really great fun little hands-on ending to that. And then I did sexological bodywork, and then I we started a little teaching collective with 3 other sexological bodyworkers, and it was part of our training to make a peer support group. So sure enough, every week we'd turn up and we'd have a little chat and what was hot and what was hard and what was going on for us. And we now teach every Monday. One of us teaches, and that's a super big part of our focus. So we're always meeting. We're always, if something happens, we're there to support each other. So a lot of my work is online. A lot of my work is teaching classes either for the Institute or for the For Erotic Explorers. I love to do one-on-one sessions online. Strangely enough, most often with Americans. And I think they like the Kiwi accent.
Yeah, nice.
Although I'm not sure they always understand the Kiwi accent, so maybe that's how it works.
Oh, that's
Um,
classic.
and I really enjoy online because it's super safe. Nothing really super surprising is going to happen. You're in your own home and you're really calling the shots. There is that risk to take, book a one-on-one, in-person, in-room
Mm,
session with
mm,
someone. And when I
mm,
say risk, it could be anything from this is freaking me out slightly to, I've had some other experiences where this didn't
mm,
go well.
mm,
But I really do enjoy hands-on work.
mm,
Um, it's it's a trust journey and it's a co-created journey. It's
mm,
not something that you're doing something. Actually, I feel like quite a blunt tool when I'm working because all I have to do is listen
mm.
and then we create an agreement around that and nothing more will ever happen than what we've agreed.
Yeah.
And then we can go and then explore safely with
Mm,
no surprises and
mm,
debrief and like really geek out on these things and then come back again and do it next week.
mm.
You know, that
Yeah,
that for
beautiful.
me, that's really juicy. Love working with couples. Really want to bring some live erotic embodiment classes to Melbourne. We have plans to do that this year.
Mm,
Kind of busy at the moment, but that's sort of a bit later in the year, hopefully.
awesome.
And yeah, I think look, I could go on a little bit, but that's probably
Yeah, it sounds rich and broad, and I love the diversity in there. And yeah, I really want to acknowledge the journey that you and the other three of the four erotic explorers has been on. Like, that's been a hugely consistent piece of this wider community, and it's always been in my awareness in the background. And the fact that you all show up so consistently, I think it's such a beautiful foundational and community-based offering to people that are interested in erotic self-exploration and actual practice. Like, people have gym practices, meditation practices. It's like erotic practice is so incredibly transformative and valuable. So thank you for sharing all of those pieces and for the work you keep doing in that space. You
welcome.
have two amazing workshops at Feast this year, Feast 2025. They follow your flair, your creative style. I'd love you to tell us what they're named, and then just a little bit about your intention of like what you're hoping to give people through those spaces.
Thanks, Jordan. Yeah,
Mm,
there's two workshops. One is exploring the etheric vulva. I think we need to expand upon that even because the word etheric is a little bit airy-fairy, but you could replace the word etheric with energetic.
yes.
I'll expand in a moment, but that's what we've called it. And the other one is getting sexy with fat. And just even as I say that, I can just I can feel the ripples on the internet. There's some people watching going, "Yeah, that's sexy. I love that." And there's also a bunch of people that are thinking a little bit opposite sort of terms. And I think that that workshop is really about reclaiming and
Mm,
celebrating. There's just so many things that have been attached
mm,
to in
mm,
modern times. I might point out because
absolutely.
but art and art history and old pottery and
Yeah.
things, you know. So probably enough said.
Mm,
But it's going to be exciting and uh, it's going to be fun. It's the only work. It's the only class I've ever taught where we've had to teach it back to back because we just unpacked so much that we wanted to come
mm,
back immediately and hit it again.
yeah. Wow.
Um, the other one, etheric vulva, or if you prefer, energetic vulva. There's going to be a little bit of anatomy, but from a fun somatic exploration perspective.
Mm,
There's going to be a little bit of body mapping,
mm,
and we're going to sort of find the in between because this is an inclusive class for anybody,
mm,
regardless of your
mm,
genital configuration. So we're going to be exploring what it might be like if energetically we were a vulva. And I also just really want to name that it's a really edgy class for me to teach
mm,
because people with penises, I have a penis, people with penises have been going on for far too long telling, you know, naming vulvas and glands and parts of
mm,
vulvas. And
mm,
um, so, yeah, I'm sensitive to the fact that, I'm a queer, cisgendered person
mm,
and and we are going to be exploring this. So in some ways, it feels like the forbidden class to teach,
Mm.
but it's so much fun, and
Mm.
yeah, it's just so inclusive and
Mm.
it's gentle. And what do I write down? Oh, that's about discovery and expanding.
Mm. Beautiful. Yeah, I love it. I love the playful essence in that offering. And I feel like I really want to speak to the transformative potential of it as well, and the deepening of awareness around relationships between people of all genders, and particularly between men and women, people with penises, people with vulvas. There's practices that exist in human history that have gone on for thousands of years around being able to actually feel into or take our consciousness and embody, inhabit another being, another thing, another substance, another creature. And for me, that's part of the foundational sense I get of this, of like our willingness to really take on what it would be like to be this piece of anatomy, or to have this
Mm.
part of a body, and to learn from that experience and be able to take that out. So for people that identify as men, or people with penises that are like, what the hell am I going to get from an etheric vulva workshop? It's like so much. You're going to get the most probably. So I really wanted to highlight that, because I feel like, yeah, the possibility for awareness and transmission of just understanding and yeah, shared shared feeling is so rich and deep. So
I really want to point out too, Jordan, that this is a somatic practice.
mm,
We're not going to sit around and just
mm,
talk about it. We're
exactly.
not going to sort of project out into some sort of airy fairy, oh, look,
Yeah.
the roof is my such and such and the
Yeah.
floor is something. It's just going to be really relating to our bodies
Yeah.
and
Awesome.
connecting our bodies with our genitals.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you so much, Patrick. I'm really excited for those to be on our program, and to see people come crashing through the doors and just lap up like the gift that you're giving through those spaces. So yeah, if any of you that are listening want to check out the descriptions of those, or the details of them further, you can jump on the Feast website, feastunlimited.com. You can go to the program page. You can also go to Patrick's facilitator profile on the Meet Our Facilitators page and look at all of the details there. You can follow Patrick's work. We'll put links to Patrick's work in the podcast notes of this episode. I've just got one or two more questions for you, my friend, to round us out. The next one is, yeah, really around helping people access these spaces, and the themes that we notice that sometimes keep people from taking the leap of faith, from taking, the step of courage into these spaces. What do you think the biggest obstacle is for people stepping into sexuality work, and how do you personally deal with that, or support people to overcome it, or meet this edge in your own work?
Look, I want to say the sort of the crux of it is around judgment and guilt and
Mm,
shame.
mm,
Now, there might be a bunch of people listening and going, I know what Patrick's talking about. And maybe there's a
mm,
bunch of people going, oh, yeah, that resonates. But I'm talking about maybe personal experience and what I hear people coming and
mm,
saying. It's like, I would like to experience this in my life, but if I tell anybody,
mm,
there's a chance that they'll go, ooh,
mm,
that's not right.
mm,
Or you're not right.
mm,
Um, and so maybe the biggest sort of thing that it takes is courage, or being able to face your fear.
mm,
Slightly different things, maybe.
mm,
Um, because sometimes I think we could sort of go, oh, that seems uncomfortable. I won't know people. They won't know me. I
mm,
don't know. Will it be too noisy? Will it be too bright? Will I be able to take myself away and look after myself? Will there be somebody
mm,
that can help me if I need it? And
mm.
the answers to all those things are yes or no, depending. Um, and the way that I think that we support people through that is we start doing something that we call personal agency or self sovereignty
Mm,
reclaiming.
mm,
It's certainly part of my workshops. And, it's about owning what you want
mm,
and then being authentic to that.
mm,
And it's scary and it's uncomfortable. And again, if we haven't practiced it, we don't know. So that's why we
mm,
spend, I think, a lot of time supporting people in
mm,
maybe coming up, because we're somatic practitioners, right? So we're not just going to sit around and talk about it, but coming
mm,
up with some sort of It's always interesting. You get, oh, I notice whenever I have to tell somebody such and such, I sort of get more and more like this.
Mm, mm,
And maybe we're going to sort of come up with some way of practicing just going, can I ask you a question?
mm. Yeah.
It's a million things. It's just that it is impossible to answer, but it's also
I absolutely love that answer because I think, it's something that I haven't heard spoken in that language yet in these conversations I've been having. And it speaks to choice. It speaks to knowing yourself and not only you personally being able to honor what you feel like you need, what you feel like is right for you, but actually being inside of a community that honors and respects your knowing of that. And there's so many places out in the world where we're pushed, shoved, manipulated, coerced, suggested, pressured. And so to step into a space like this, like there's almost a level of deservingness that we need to have in the first place because it's such a loving, supportive environment, and the fact that you're linking that to as early as possible, we're doing work that supports their personal agency before they even get here to that that you have a choice and that your choice is respected and uplifted and upheld and your knowing of that choice is celebrated. It's such an affirming thing, and I think it's something that's missing so significantly in many of our cultures where we've been taught to listen to so many things outside of ourselves. And the relationships we can have to earth and proper relationships and community is sourced from those places to find authentic knowing rather than these heady, kind of conditioned or judgmental ideas of how we should be or what we should do.
yeah, there's kind of like a dumbing down of curiosity rather than having that as a really valued trait. It's like, well, curiosity kills cats. It's just not
Totally.
safe. You shouldn't be
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah.
And the truth is, like, I think when you're new, if you come into to FEAST for the first time, really all you can do is build up as much courage as you can and go in curious.
Yeah. 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 And then once you get your foot in the door, we're there. We've got you, you're
Oh yeah,
supported, but it's like,
yeah.
just
All
get
the
there.
scary stuff that you think is, oh, it's like it's just
Yeah.
so, it's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. It's epic. I love that. Thank you, man. My final request of you is if you'd oblige me, I want to give you a few words and for you to finish this sentence with whatever feels true for you. The beginning of the sentence is I'm going to FEAST 2025 because
Oh, I want to.
say the whole thing. You give me whatever feels true for you.
Okay, I'm going to FEAST 2025 because I really want to. I'm excited. Uh, why not do something you really want?
Yeah, yeah. And what makes you want to about that space? Like what excites you most?
The people, the community. That's what makes life
Mm,
really, really vibrant.
mm, mm. Epic. Thank you so much, my friend. I feel like you brought so much uniqueness today. And yeah, your personal experience, your neurospiciness, your particular makeup and series of events in your life that have led to the incredible work that you've been doing over the last several years. We're so excited to have you in the space as a team member, a facilitator with our wonderful crew. And I look forward to being there in person with you in May.
Same. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome, man. Thank you.